there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Where you gonna be tonight? Oh, there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. There's magic coming. Get ready for the rest of your life.
Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to Sassafras Cast. This is episode number 59 of Sassafras Cast, and I'm beginning a series on working with the different elements, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, in your practice, in your spiritual practice, in your ritual practice, in your folk magic practice, whatever vibes with you. Welcome to Sassafras Cast. This is a podcast full of witchy insights to help you lead your sassiest life. I am Rorie Kelly, a tarot reader, singer-songwriter, and all-around personal growth nerd from Long Island, New York. In just a moment, we will begin the Witchy Weather Report. But first, a shout out to my patrons. If you didn't know, you can support this podcast at patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot for $1 a month or more. I record these episodes live, and my patrons get a private YouTube link right before each one so they can tune in for the live recording, hang out in the chat, ask questions, and get them answered in real time. They also get access to my witchy Discord server where we talk about all things witchy and wonderful, and a shout out in every episode. Here we go. Thank you to Amanda Curry, Melissa Marie Imagery, Rachel Miller, Grayson, Millie Orozco, Ruby, Rebecca Jones, Brittany, Hannah Westlock, Brittany Campbell, and Jennifer McPhail. I'm so grateful that you are in my world. It's time now for the Witchy Weather Report, in which I talk a little bit about the moment and pull a tarot card for you. So first, the moment. I'm recording this on August 10th, 2025, so I'll talk a little bit about about the full moon we just had and Mercury, which is about to come out of the microwave. But after that, I'm going to pull a card which is intended for everyone, no matter where and when you are. It is meant to hit with you whether you are watching this live or close to live, or whether you just happened upon this, years later or whatever. It's meant to find you where it meets you and have something to offer you right then. Hey, Judith. I see we got Judith in the chat. So first of all, it's August 10th. We just had a full moon in Aquarius, and before the full moon in Aquarius, we had a new moon in Leo. Now, Leo is all about how we see ourselves, and I've been doing these kind of like a new moon to full moon pairings the last few months, and you might have heard me talking about it if you order my monthly tarot reports. I kind of just like talk about how the new moon and the full moon interact with each other and the overall lesson we're learning for the moon cycle. That's also something I do in the Monday Moon Magic and Meditation Club. Leo, which was the new moon cycle we started about 2 weeks ago, is a sign that's all about how you see yourself, how you relate to your visibility, and how you relate to your bigness, how you feel about others seeing you, as well as how you see yourself. And in its most positive aspect, Leo is an incredibly affirming cheerleader energy, right? Leo is the hell yes, we're all in this together. We're all doing this. We're so great. We're good at this. I support you. You support me. Like it is the cheerleader friend. And also the diva. It is like we all get to shine energy, right? In its most positive aspect. In its most negative aspect, Leo can speak of fear of visibility or greediness about visibility, making everything about them, making everything dramatic, right? And of course, we all carry this spectrum within ourselves, right? There are all of us have experienced times in our lives where we are all about the spotlight and owning it, and all of us have experienced times in our lives where we're like stepping back, and our natural personality state probably falls somewhere between those two extremes, right? This particular moon cycle is about us learning about how we relate to being seen, how we see ourselves, how we want others to see us, how we feel about others seeing us, how we want or don't want others to see us, right? And our perception of our gifts and our perception of our visibility. So there's definitely some self-worth energy in there, as well as some energy around like whether our outsides match our insides, whether we are masking, whether we feel like we're showing our true self to the world, or like there are parts of ourselves that we have to mask or have to be in the closet about. And this Leo moon cycle was really meant to help us just work through some of that stuff, cycle up to a higher vision of what it looks like for us to see and be seen in our lives. Now, couple that with the full moon we just had last night in Aquarius, and Aquarius is the water bearer. I'm an Aquarius rising. Aquarius is also like the social justice sign. It is the new ideas. It is the innovation sign. And so it asks the question, what new ideas are you bringing to the table within your community? And we can define community from very small to very large, right? Your community of your chosen family, the smallest inner circle, to the whole world, to beyond the whole world, right? To the universe, and how we engage with everything and everyone around us. And so couple that with the fact that we've been exploring our own visibility and our own identity around being seen. And you have this really interesting moon cycle where we're talking about who we are, who we really believe we are, how we believe others see us, and what we believe we are meant to bring into the light, to bring into the world. What gifts are we meant to share? And we had this Mercury retrograde during that, which suggests to me, and I think I've been experiencing this, I don't know if I don't know if other people have been experiencing it the same way, but Mercury retrograde, brings us back to lessons that we can either we didn't learn them the first time, or just as often we did work around these things, and now we've progressed enough to be able to do a little more work, to peel back another layer of the onion, to go a little deeper, right? It's not that we're regressing. It is that things are coming up from our past, and we can now approach them with the new perspective and the wisdom and the strength and the energy that we have garnered since the last time we dealt with these topics. So yeah, there's an opportunity to regress, right? There's an opportunity to relapse into whatever self-destructive behavior might affect us around these topics of seeing and being seen, of sharing our gifts. But there's also an opportunity to cast off. There's an opportunity to decide, I will no longer be under the spell of whatever has prevented me from embracing my own bigness in the past. And that's kind of the moment. Let that be the Witchy Weather Report. The questions I ask of you are, how do you see yourself right now? Are you comfortable being seen? Are you comfortable with how other people see you? Is there anything you want to do to improve that relationship with yourself and your visibility? And now I'm going to pull a card for everyone. And again, this card is meant to find you wherever and whenever it finds you. After that, we're doing a hydration checkpoint. The card of the moment is the Four of Wands. We have this energy of celebrations, milestones. I talk a lot about milestones when the Four of Wands comes up, and how important it is for us to pause. What's funny is just an hour ago, I think, I was talking with another friend who's also a reader. She's a different type of reader than me. She also reads cards, but she's more on the kind of psychic, listening, and intuitive side. And she was asking me, do you feel any different after this Aquarius full moon? And I responded, I actually feel numb. I feel like I am waiting for something to happen. Like there's a pause happening. And she was like, I feel exhausted. I feel tired. Like I can't keep my eyes open. And those two things together were interesting to hear. It makes me think that perhaps maybe we've done some work and now we're waiting for the gears to keep turning, waiting for the plot to move forward. And the Four of Wands is about a sacred pause. We find cards that celebrate pause throughout the tarot. The Hanged Man is one of them, where it's about pausing whether you like it or not, right? And the Four of Wands is about pausing and liking it, giving yourself the opportunity to see where you've been, where you're headed, and where you are. Having these moments in our life is like inviting us to do a past, present, future journal entry in real time, right? Birthday parties. There's a birthday party depicted here. There's someone blowing out the candles on a cake. Weddings, anniversaries, divorces, any big milestone moment that you know you're going to remember that date at least for a little while, or remember the moment if you don't remember the exact date, right? Graduations, birthday parties, all of these different things too, whether they're yours or not, right? Because I'm sure you've been to somebody else's celebration or somebody else's event and had the experience of reflecting on your own life. Oh, so-and-so just graduated law school. We're going out for drinks. Like, congratulations to her. She's going to change the world. And what have I done lately with my own calling? What have I done lately with my own life? How have I applied myself lately? You know, it encourages this type of self-reflection when we allow ourselves to have these pauses, and it encourages it in an attitude of celebration. It allows us to lift each other up, to be seen in our best lights, and to simultaneously be enjoying sensuality and the world around us, right? Often at celebrations we're eating and drinking, maybe we're dancing, there's some kind of festivities, we're having a nice time with people that we care about, or ideally at least like a little bit. Or maybe have been through something with, like in the case of a graduation, right? And we have this opportunity to take this pause and ask ourselves, where am I going? Where have I been? How do I feel about it? So I invite you to take that pause right now. Create that milestone for yourself. Past, present, future. Where are you? How do you feel right now? Where have you been? What are you coming from? And where are you going? And how do you feel about it? There's no right or wrong answers. These are things that give us an opportunity to, first of all, congratulate ourselves, which I think we do too little of. Congratulate ourselves on our hard work. Congratulate ourselves on how far we've come. Really notice those positive changes in our lives that we've created. And also to ask ourselves a little bit, like, how do I feel about my trajectory? And if we like some of it, we can maybe even hone in better on the parts we like. And if we feel bad about our trajectory, then we have an opportunity to make some new choices, right? Either way, it's a win. Either way, it lets you make the change that you know will make a difference. This has been the Witchy Weather Report. Let's move into today's topic. I'm kicking off a series where I talk about working in our spiritual practice, whether this is a folk magic practice, a ritual practice, more of a devotional practice, whatever helps you connect with your spirituality. This series is about working with the different elements. And right on cue, she always seems to do this right when I'm streaming. My cat is behind me using the litter box. So if you're hearing this, it's being committed. It's being committed to memory for now and ever. Enjoy the sound of Kaylee taking a sacred pause. It's really funny. I was getting ready. I was live streaming for something about a full moon releasing ritual with some friends, and right on cue, Kaylee gets into the litter box, and I'm like, there she is with her releasing ritual. Actually, I don't think it was a live stream. It was in person. We were all kind of like gathered around in a circle, having a moment, about to begin as like a meditation. And right on cue, Kaylee's like, time for my releasing ritual. You know, you gotta love cats. All right, let's talk about the element of earth. I'm going to proceed through the elements over the next 5 episodes: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit, and talk about how I work with these different elements, what they represent, and suggest to you some ideas of how you can work with them. Earth, and if you're a tarot reader, earth is represented by the suit of pentacles in the tarot card. Now, because it's pentacles, many people associate earth with money, and earth does indeed. It like has to do with our money, right? It has to do with our money and our ambitions around that. But that is not the full story. Earth represents our stability. Certainly, money is a part of our stability. I said I was going to have a hydration checkpoint, and I didn't have one. My stability is about to be improved by taking water into my body. Play the Rorie Kelly drinking game, drink water when I drink water. It's boring, but we stay hydrated. Cheers, y'all. So Earth represents those things that help us feel stable or not, right? And money is certainly one of those things. I like to tell people when I'm reading a tarot card reading with a bunch of pentacles in it, pentacles, earth, the element of earth represents those things that when they are going well, we don't necessarily remember to notice them. And when they're not going well, they are all we notice, right? Our money, case in point. When things are going well, we don't always remember to think about our money if money is going okay. But when it's not going okay, boy, do we notice it. And boy, is it on our mind, right? And similarly with our physical health. And similarly, too, with our core relationships, our family relationships, as well as those people, just people that we see every day, whether they're important to us or not, right? Our coworkers, if we, work with the same people every day, right? The people that we engage with on a regular day-to-day basis. If those relationships, regardless of how intimate they are, if those relationships are in flow, things feel pretty good. If they're not, things feel pretty bad, right? Even if objectively nothing is wrong, if those relationships feel sucky, life feels sucky because we're spending a lot of time around someone where things feel uncomfortable, right? So those core relationships are also something that earth can affect. Earth also represents the earth, the environment, Mother Earth, nature, as well as our day-to-day activities, our environment, our home life, our day-to-day activities, the way that how we spend our time and energy and what is around us, environmental factors, how those things affect us are all affected by earth. As well as our relationship with our body. Our body is earth, our squishy human animal body. I'm always saying that because we have to remember that we are a squishy animal and we deserve the same care a squishy animal like my cat Kaylee receives. As well as slow and steady growth. Earth represents growth. And I mean, you could take it a step further and say that earth represents all types of growth, right? Earth is considered by many, both in the tarot and in kind of folk magic practice, to be kind of a slow element, right? And we think about trees and how a tree takes a long time to grow. However, there's also there's plants that just shoot up and become abundant very quickly, right? I think about peppermint and how you put a little bit of peppermint in your garden and then it just keeps expanding and soon the peppermint takes over. There's a few plants that do that. There's also invasive plants that do that, right? So we have this energy of abundance and growth. And it's interesting as we apply the principles of magic, and I don't talk a lot about this, but I'm going to a little bit in this series. There's some key principles that a lot of different folk magic or spirituality traditions or manifestation traditions, if you will, follow. And a big one is as above, so below, meaning as things are here on earth, they are kind of in the thought form realm, or as things are in our head, so they may be manifested on earth. And of course, that's an oversimplification. And also like calling to like, right? So this energy of I am going to put out the energy that I am seeking. And that's like a core tenet that you may have heard from manifestation circles. And again, yes, it's oversimplified, right? Because every day we're putting out all kinds of different energy throughout the day as we experience different things. And if we try to make ourselves be the perfect manifestors and have positive vibes only and have high frequency thoughts at all times, the only thing that's going to happen is a butt ton of denial, right? We can't edit out the parts of our life that don't feel high vibrational, that don't feel like good manifesting thoughts, without really doing a number on ourselves in a negative way, doing a spiritual bypassing thing, a toxic bypassing thing, where we are engaging with a prettier version of the world and sweeping under the rug anything that doesn't fit our fantasy reality. That's not healthy, right? It is healthy to do some level of, okay, I can find optimism even in difficult times. I can choose what energy I bring into a room, right? These are topics that we can give ourselves some level of control over. But when we try to tell ourselves that everything in our life is determined by the energy that we put out, that's a dangerous line to walk, right? That level of self-policing can be pretty harmful. or the level of denial that may accompany it when we refuse to see unpleasant realities, because information is power. And anytime you're willfully not thinking about the things that you don't like, you're cutting your brain off from access to important information that might help you make better decisions, right? So while we need to have our eyes open, and while we need to acknowledge the reality in which we live, as people who are working to change that reality through both spiritual means and practical means, and those two are, in my view, inextricably tied. You can't say, "Oh, I'm manifesting my success, I'm manifesting world peace, I'm manifesting whatever," and just sit there and think about it, sit there and pray about it, sit there and, think the high vibe thoughts about it. You do have to go out and take your two hands, use the element of earth, use your squishy human body to do something towards those goals, right? And I view magic, folk magic practices, prayer practices, ritual practices as something that helps us put ourselves in the right mindset to believe that what we can do with our two hands can make a bigger difference than maybe we can see right now, right? So often we don't start on a project because we can't see our way from point A to point B. And engaging in practices, in ritual, in just daydreaming at its most basic level, engaging in these manifestation practices allows us to believe, even though I can't see how to get to point B, I can understand that if I start taking steps, the path might unroll before me and I might get there, right? The same way when we get in the car to take a long drive, we cannot physically see our destination. We have to keep driving for a while until it appears before us, and we have to act on some level of faith that it's going to be there, that we're going to find it, that it's going to be, if we've been there before, where we left it, and if we've never been there, that we're going to be able to locate it, right? And so these practices, ritual, affirmations, any type of manifestation practices, prayer, these are practices to help us believe in our destination even when we can't physically see it in front of our face yet, right? Seeing is believing. And what's the next best thing? Because sometimes we can't see it, but we do need to believe. Sometimes we don't see how we're going to make the money we need to make to get ourselves out of debt, but we need to believe that we can. And so when we spend the time imagining or engaging in magic or ritual or prayer that we do have that money to pay off that debt and that we are walking the path until we get there, we open a road for ourselves in our brain to see the opportunities. And you may already know this about me. If you've listened to this podcast at all, I'm someone who actively doesn't care if something magical is happening or if it's all in my head, if it works. I do know that there have been studies on mindfulness and studies on intention and studies on meditation and studies on belief and studies on our ability to impact our reality with our thoughts. And I don't necessarily mean like I think the spoon moves and the spoon moves, but I do mean that there have been studies about people practicing prayer, practicing positive affirmations, practicing different thoughts, and how it has affected things like their mood, their health, and the mood and health of people who are not them, right? But who they are perhaps sending good energy to. And we have an understanding of how the mind works such that the brain is looking to solve particular problems kind of all the time. And when we train our subconscious to start working on a problem, we say the solution is there. Try to figure this out. Our subconscious will keep doing it even while we're asleep. And it will allow our brain to see opportunities we would not have seen if we told our brain, there's no path there, that's not happening, we'll have to try something else, right? Just the power of where we place our focus and awareness. It's very hard to see a golden opportunity if we have told ourselves there are no opportunities. And so, at the end of the day, is folk magic, prayer, manifestation, ritual magic, is that something magical that we're doing? Or are we simply hacking our brains to let ourselves see the path? And I'm here to tell you, as usual, that I don't care. If it helps, it helps. And I'm in for it. And I know it helps. So let's talk about how we can work with the element of earth. Earth represents these different things: money, growth, our relationship with our body, our health, our physical health in particular, our core relationships, the environment, both the literal environment, Mother Nature, the earth, and our environment, how different factors around us affect us. I wanted to go through that list again, even though I did earlier in the episode, just to bring it fresh in our mind, and I will be coming back to it. How do we work with this element? I have a very relational approach I've learned over the years to spirituality. I view myself in relationship with these different concepts that I'm working with, and it helps me. It's just a way that I connect. Now, not everyone is going to feel that way, so if some of my approach works for you and some of it doesn't, take what works, leave the rest. My feelings won't be hurt, right? But for me, I approach the earth the way I would approach a friendship. I put out some energy with the understanding that I wouldn't just ask a friend to do a billion things for me without showing up in good faith myself, right? And there's also the understanding in a healthy relationship that we're not necessarily keeping score. We just have a healthy practice of showing up to the friendship in good faith. Right? We just have a healthy practice of showing up to that relationship and saying, like, I'm going to give what I can today. And if I need help, I'm going to have faith that someone who cares about me will give what they can. And a very healthy version of that practice, right, is the expectation of, I may ask you for something, and if you can't give it to me, I hope you're honest with me. I don't want you to sacrifice yourself for me, right? Sometimes we ask people for big and small things, right? For a ride, to buy us a drink, to spot us $5, to give us a hug, to listen to us and help us solve a problem, right? Or just for time, to hang out, to do a thing together. And there needs to be an understanding in a healthy relationship that not always will those be met with a yes. And it's not because the relationship is poor. In fact, if a relationship is strong enough, we feel safe in saying, actually, I'm not able to do that for you. I still care about you, though, and know that the other person will understand, right? Actually, I can't spend time with you this weekend because my dance card is full and I need to rest, or I need to work, or I need to do whatever. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. Can we do it another time, right? We need to have the freedom to say both yes and no in our relationships. And we need to come to our relationships, too, with a willingness to say, I'll put in with what I can, and also I'll have the healthy boundaries to protect me. And so, what is between us is freely offered, freely received. That's the ideal, right? Not every relationship works that way, but that's how I want my relationships to be. And so I approach my relationship with the elements this way. I approach my relationship with any spirits I'm working with this way. I approach my relationship even with concepts this way, right? It helps me to think relationally. And with the earth, I connect to it somatically. I connect to all the elements kind of with, I guess I would say, feeling my way. It's less that I'm visualizing, it's more that I'm feeling my way through. I'm using my imagination, but I'm also using my body and my senses. And with the earth in particular, I visualize this downward force, which I guess like the feeling of gravity, right? Like pulling me towards the center of the earth. And I just visualize the strength of that connection. And if possible, I put my feet on the ground. Or if I can't, if I'm lying down, I feel that through my whole body, right? Whatever lowest thing my body is in contact with, a bed, the floor, whatever, the grass. Don't lie in the grass in Suffolk County in the summer. We have so many ticks. I like to feel that connection and just feel the stability. And the way that I imagine that connection with the earth is that I visualize energy flowing out of me. And the energy that I imagine flowing out isn't like I'm giving away a ton of my life force or anything like that. It's more like the same way I'd put energy out if I saw a friend and smiled at them and said hi, right? It's me saying, hey, how are you doing? Been a minute. I'm connecting, right? I'm taking a moment to greet the earth just as I would greet a friend that I passed by on the street, or indeed even like a stranger in a shop when I walked in the door, right? I'm taking a moment to say, I'm here, you're here, we're connected. And I do that with an open heart, and that's the first thing I do. I don't wait I don't hope the earth will notice and give me its bounty when I'm not even willing to say hello, And I try to do this regularly, whether I'm trying to accomplish something magically or not. I try to just tune in regularly and have relationships with the elements. And I've heard it said more than once in different folk magic circles that this is the really healthy way to work with things like spirits and deities, that it's less about just asking for what you want when you want it and more about forming a relationship. And then sometimes you don't have to ask, right? In the same way you form a relationship with your friends, with your colleagues, with your community, with your network, and sometimes they just think of you, right? You form a relationship and you show up for the relationship and you say hello and you ask how they are and you show up to their milestones, right? And you celebrate and honor them. And sometimes that means when you're like, oh man, hey, my car broke down, can you give me a ride? They help us in a crunch. And sometimes it means that they think of us just because we're in a relationship with them and they're like, oh, who'd be perfect for this opportunity, right? And forming that relationship allows for those things to flow naturally. That's something that happens in real life, right? Paying good attention to our relationship just means things flow well for us. And I do that with the elements. I check in as often as I can with earth, air, fire, water, and it's just like a few minutes of my day. I just kind of connect it with my breath. I send out some energy on my out breath. I imagine the experience when I take in the energy in return that it's like saying, hey, how are you doing? Right? And then waiting to hear how your friend is doing, right? It's like sensing the energy. And that's what I do with the earth. I imagine sending in my energy and then open up my feeling senses to feel the energy sent back. And in this way, you can work with the elements and get to know each of them individually. And in this way, you can work with many things and get to know them. You can work with your home. You can connect to your house or apartment, your dwelling that you live in, by putting your hands on it and imagine that energy exchange and getting to know the feeling of it. You can do this with trees and working with the element of earth. Working with a plant is a great way to do that. I'll be talking more about that. You can do this with, I kind of do this with places a lot. I'm a traveling musician. I'm a performer. I will sometimes tap into the energy of the place. You might think of it as local spirits. You might think of it as whatever entities are around. I like to go outside wherever I live, and I haven't done this in my new place yet. But I like to go outside and kind of connect to put my hands on the earth and be and just send out that hello energy and just be sending out good energy to all my neighbors around me, whether it's literally the guy next door, or the rabbits or the grass growing under my fingers or, whatever ethereal entities you do or don't believe in, right? Just I'm sending out a general hello. I'm sending out good energy. May we be good neighbors. I like to have that practice. And it's a meaningful practice to me. And I feel different feelings about connecting with different things. And again, maybe it's all in my head, but it does give my life a little bit of meaning in a way that feels good. So I like to connect with the earth in that way. I like to visualize sending out that earth energy and feeling it come back up towards me. And what it feels like to me is stability. It feels like the feeling of becoming a tree growing out of the earth. It feels like a feeling of having a little extra strength. That's how earth feels to me. I can't tell you how it'll feel to you. We can make offerings to the earth in very practical ways. And I encourage us, if we want to work with the element of earth in any way for our benefit, to think about how we can give back to the earth that has birthed us and that humans as a species haven't always been so great for, right? The relationship between humans and kind of the earth and the environment is not that you should keep score in relationships, but when a relationship gets weird is when you do have to start keeping score, when you do have to start looking at that exchange, when you do have to start looking at how do I feel about what's going in and what's going out, right? And I think as human beings, it's imperative that we start thinking more and more about our relationship with the earth, our relationship with the environment, and ask ourselves what we can do to better it proactively. And making an offering to the earth I recommend an offering of any action that is going to benefit the environment. This could be something less tangible, like donating to an environmental organization, right? Donating to someone who is saving our forests, or an organization that is lobbying against pollution, you know. It could also be much more tangible. It could be going and picking up litter. It could be watering a plant, right? There's many ways to make an offering, and it's acting on the simple faith that there's only one of me, but if I show up with consistency, I can make a difference, right? Maybe maybe me taking a cup of water, as I often do, and going and putting it in the little potted moonflower that I have outside. Maybe that doesn't dramatically change the earth, but it makes the world of difference for my moonflower. And the act of me showing up that way builds this consistent relationship between me and the environment. And the more we show up too, the more we learn new ways to show up. The more I think about, let me water my moonflower so that she doesn't get wilty and sad, the more I'm able to think about, I have an impact not just on this moonflower, but in a bigger way on the earth that I walk on, and what big and small actions can I take to improve that relationship, right? And the more we think about it, the more we're able to see small, easy changes and shifts that we can make that improve that relationship. And again, I approach these things relationally, because when you do show up for a relationship, when it's a healthy relationship, right? Because I'm not talking about overgiving either. I don't personally subscribe to the type of spirituality where you kind of prostrate yourself, and prayer feels more like begging or like piling on the praise. The type of devotional prayers that are like, wow, you're so great, you're such a wonderful God, you're so good. You know, like, first of all, that feels a little disingenuous to me. And I'm not saying that being grateful to a creator or a deity or spirit you believe in necessarily has to be disingenuous. But I think everyone has had the experience of someone coming up to you and saying, wow, I'm so glad you're in my life, in a way that feels authentic and real. And someone kind of laying compliments on you in a way that makes it clear that they want something from you, right? Let's not let our relationships in the spiritual realm be disingenuous in that way. Let's allow them to be spontaneous. So yes, let's show our appreciation and show up in practical ways, but let's not prostrate ourselves either. Let's have respect for ourselves in that relationship as well. Another wonderful way to relate to the earth is form relationships with plants and animals. We learn so much from our relationships. Investing in a day-to-day relationship with something that can't speak back to you requires patience, requires a willingness to learn, requires a willingness to take the time and listen and kind of learn someone else's language, right? My cat and I cannot speak English to each other. I talk to her all day long. I have all kinds of conversations with my cat. I have all kinds of conversations, for that matter, with my moonflower. I say hello to her every day when I pass her on my way out. However, to have a true relationship, you have to have communication in both ways. And so any pet parent will tell you that, like, you have to learn how your cats in particular can be tough sometimes. You have to learn how they communicate. Anyone who's ever had a cat who has then fallen ill knows that, like, looking for symptoms can be difficult because cats mask their symptoms very well. They're still going to be cats. They're still going to jump around even if maybe they're in pain, right? They're still going to cat even if there's something that's not quite right, and they can't tell us and be like, hey, I've got a stomach ache, or hey, there's something going on with my paw, right? So we have to look for in their behavior, the cues, you know, of how they can tell us. And forming a relationship with something that can't speak your language to you, making that effort and energy to learn the language of another, is a deep, deep practice of empathy that will change your life. And so I talk to trees, and I lay my hands on the trees, and I try to feel and have a relationship with them. And I do that with the beach, and I do that with animals. And I think many people do that with animals. in ways that we don't think about it, right? When you hold out your hand for a dog to sniff, right? You're allowing communication on a different level than you would with another human being, right? I think that allowing for that type of relational experience that's unspoken, allowing ourselves to feel into a relationship can be very beneficial. And I really recommend doing that with plants and animals. It's a great way to do that. That's a great way to work with the earth. And you can take this a step further if you're trying to develop a relationship with something in your life that you want to see grow. Consider what it would be like to kind of talk through or feel your way through that relationship with a plant, with an animal in your life, right? Like, if you were wanting to grow your income or grow money in your life, what plants are associated with money? A lot of them, because earth magic money, right? Basil, peppermint, different things. If you wanted to grow financial stability, you might go towards something like a tree, big and strong, long lasting, right? What would it feel like to just go right to the source and buy yourself a little plant and take good care of it and be like, and just like feel your way through that relationship and ask yourself what it teaches you about your relationship with your actual money. And again, it's one of those things where doing that kind of critical thinking, is it magic? Is there something, are you learning something magical? Or is there some kind of psychic communication going on with the plant or with the universe or with the element of earth? Or are you just applying your brain in a new way that gives you new answers? And again, I don't care. It works, right? I also love to work with earth for protection because it has that deep stability. And when I am visualizing protection for myself, I like to imagine that the earth is growing up around me and protecting me. I used to imagine like a stone wall, like stones are of the earth, like a stone wall protecting me, like being in a stone tower or something like that. I now like to think of the earth, because I'm so relational, as like a living protector. I like to imagine like branches coming up around me to protect me, to encircle me, to both hide me from sight if that's important to the protection, and just to create a barrier where people can't get to me, right? And because I'm so relational, this doesn't feel too far-fetched to me, in the same way that if you are looking out for a friend and you see someone kind of coming up weird to your friend and you don't know what their intentions are, you might step in front of them, or you might take their hand and let them know, hey, I see someone coming towards you. Or you might just be on the alert so that you can look out for them if something happens, right? And that is the way I kind of approach protective magic, is people who are looking out for me, people who I'm looking out for are going to look out for me. We protect each other. It's very relational. I want to move into Witch You Got This, where I share with you a practical idea you can implement right now in your practice. And I'm actually going to give you a list of just like fun practical ideas to do a little bit of folk magic with the element of earth. And I'm going to share kind of one idea for each of these topics. Or if you remember at the beginning of the episode, I gave you this list of things that earth kind of represents. I'm going to go down that list and give you a cute little folk magic idea for each one. And by the way, if you are a patron at the $5 and above level, you will be getting a bonus episode where I dig deeper into creating growth in your life with a plant ally. So if you're interested in that, I'll be talking about that like more in depth in the bonus episode. But right now, let's talk about what are some cute folk magic things you can do with earth around money. You can put some peppermint leaves in your wallet. You can dry out some peppermint leaves and like sprinkle them into your coffee in the morning before you go to a job interview or a sales pitch or something like that. You can, and I say peppermint because peppermint is a plant that tends to represent abundance, and it represents abundance because as above, so below, because the peppermint plant will take over your entire garden. It grows quickly and easily, and it will be like, yes, I will take up all the space. Thank you very much. So if you want to create an abundance of money in your wallet, peppermint's not a bad place to start with that. So that's a way that you can work with the element of earth for money. You can involve peppermint. Rub it on your hands before you send out a resume or a sales pitch, like with your computer, like just feel the vibe with peppermints. Earth also represents slow and steady growth. A fun way to work with earth in an area that you want to grow, perhaps a way that you're learning, perhaps a habit you're trying to build, is to assign yourself Assign yourself to attach this to your practice of checking in with the earth, and ask the earth if it has any information for you about this. How do I want to grow? Earth, what should I do? And feel it. See if you can feel it. See if you can check in with the earth and say, hey, earth, how you doing? Right? Send that energy down and do the somatic practice of, allowing the earth to answer, and then say, I have a question for you. What do you think I should do in this growth area of life? Right? And let yourself feel if an answer comes from the earth. And let yourself try to understand that language, that answer might not come with language. It might come with a feeling. It might require some effort and some interpretation, just as it requires some effort and some interpretation to learn a new habit or learn a new skill, right? How about our relationship with our body? Our body is of the earth. Working with the earth to strengthen our body. I think I have to be careful with this one. Because I'm someone who can sometimes put a little too much pressure on myself at the expense of my body. We can reach out to the earth and ask for strength. That feeling of strength through our body, that feeling of stability that for me comes when I connect to the earth. We can ask the earth to give us strength. As I grow deeper in my practice, I think that the most valuable thing I can ask for is information. And I like to have a direct relationship and dialogue with my body. My body is of the earth, and ask it to tell me when I need to pay attention. And I like to do that when I'm going to sleep, asking my body to communicate with me through dreams, through the subconscious, because I think I'm going to get a little more information that way, personally, as someone who remembers her dreams vividly. And I also like to practice interoception, which is the practice of tuning into the sensations of your body. And I like to practice it when nothing is wrong, and I like to practice it when something is wrong, and I like to learn the landscape of what it feels like to be in my body, the weather of my body. If you've ever done an interpretation of me, that's how if you've ever done a meditation with me, that's how I interpret it. I say, what's the weather today in your body? And so what is the weather today in your body? You can tune in for a weather report from your body. And this will not only allow you to maybe detach from some of the feelings we have about our bodies and all the ways society does and doesn't place value on our bodies depending on different factors, right? Maybe it allows us to heal and have a simpler relationship with our body that is less about, does it fit a certain mold? Does it look a certain way? Does it weigh a certain amount? And more about we're just in relationship. We're just working together. If you're watching the video podcast, you can see Kaylee has jumped onto my lap. So we are having a little relational moment right now. How can we work with the element of earth in our core relationships? Like my relationship with Kaylee, I spend more time with Kaylee than anyone else right now, because I live with Kaylee and I don't live with anyone else. How can we work with the element of earth? We can learn from the element of earth that there's different types of communication, and also that slow and steady is often the vibe. It takes a day for a seedling to sprout, right? It just sprouts when it sprouts, but it might have taken 14 days or even 40 days underground, receiving the right temperature in the soil, receiving enough water, receiving enough sunlight filtering through the soil for that seed to be ready to germinate. So we understand that sometimes it's a slow build, right? And with our relationships, knowing that getting those factors right, the nourishment, the sunlight, the water, right, the temperature, getting those conditions right and just showing up to make those work in our core relationships, we can take that information from the earth and we can ask ourselves, how can I nourish this relationship as I would nourish a plant I am growing? If you have a green thumb, you can even take this a step further and literally plant a plant. There's a post that goes around the internet about someone who named all her plants after her friends. And if one of the plants isn't doing well, like clockwork, she'll find out that friend is actually having a bad day or something. I think that's really interesting if you have a green thumb. If you don't have a green thumb and you struggle to take good care of plants, you're going to stress yourself out doing that. So know yourself. How can we use the earth to impact our relationship with the environment? This is a real direct one, and I think we can forge that communication with the earth, but this one I think is on us. I think we actually, as human beings, we owe it right now in our relationship with the earth, to not be like, hey earth, what should I do? Hey earth, what do you need from me? But to be proactive. I think about how in relationship, especially long-term relationships, people talk about like, I don't need you to ask me what I need. I need you to read the room a little bit, right? I need you to read the room and know that like you've known me for a long time. And if I'm stressed out about this, that, and the other thing, that what I really need from you is X. Or if I'm overwhelmed, that here's the practical thing you can do that will make me feel less overwhelmed in that moment, right? We can practice reading the room with the environment. And I think there's a lot of information, both scientific data and just like, for those of us, the longer you're on this earth, the more information you have about how the seasons have changed since you've been alive. New York just got labeled a subtropical climate like a couple weeks ago. I grew up in New York. Our winters used to be way more wintry. The plant life that I saw when I was a child has been replaced by plants that I didn't see. There's like different invasive species, different things that are now thriving here. Reading the room, paying attention. Paying attention is how we can work with the earth and the environment. And last one, how can we use the element of earth in our practice to improve our day-to-day, our environment, right? Our home life, our habits, all of those things. And in this instance, I invite you to embody the seed, embody the plant. Again, this is something you could literally do if you have a green thumb. Again, it might stress you out if you don't have a green thumb, right? But what would you do if you were the plant? If you're taking care of a plant, you look after it, maybe you learn a little bit about it. Like, does it need full sun? Does it need, how often does it need to be watered? I made a big mistake with my money plant when I moved in here and put it right in front of a window. For the first time I lived somewhere where I really do get full sun from a window. The place I used to live had a lot of tree cover, so it was always indirect light. And I learned the hard way that money plants like indirect light, and I gave my poor money plant a sunburn. And some of her leaves fell off, and I was like, duh, I was trying to do the right thing, and I failed, right? And there was a lesson there, and the lesson was, okay, let's find out what kind of light money plants actually need instead of me kind of guessing. And I did. And I learned that they prefer indirect light, and I moved, and now she's thriving. I moved the plant, right, to a place where she wasn't right in front of the sunlight, which I originally thought would be good. And this is a lesson that can serve us in all of our relationships, but including with ourselves. We need to be teachable in our relationship with ourselves, with our habits, with our environment. What's working for me and what's not? Look at the squishy human animal of your body. How is it responding, right? What's working for me and what's not working? And we can allow ourselves to believe that data. I think one way that we've gotten very disconnected in this moment in 2025 is our willingness to trust the information that our body is telling us over whatever else, over whatever health fad of the moment, over whatever the guru on the internet says at the moment about your self-care, about whatever, about relationships, about your habits, about blah, 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 blah. The longest relationship we'll ever have is with ourselves. That also means that we can have the deepest relationship with ourselves simply by paying attention every day and listening. And when we believe the information our body and our brain is telling us, it allows us to act on that information and make changes, right? If we find out, oh, I've got this or that symptom, and I notice that it gets worse when I do this, but better when I do this, that's information. And if instead of listening to ourselves and checking, we're trying stuff that some random health person threw at us, we might not do as well as doing the check-in. I've talked to a few friends who have suffered from heartburn, which I used to suffer from. I don't as much anymore because it seems to be real stress focused, and I have reduced my stress. So it does come up for me, but it used to be like a much worse situation. And one of the things a few of us had in common was noticing that when we had some acidic food, whether it was like lemon juice or vinegar or something like that, that before we ate, that it could actually reduce our heartburn. And we're like, that's funny because you wouldn't think it. And some of the common heartburn advice is like, avoid acidic foods, right? And of course, like, different things will do different things to your body, and different bodies will respond differently to different things. And if we were to just like be handed a list of foods to avoid and foods to eat from our doctor, that might help and it might not, right? But even then, probably the real magic would be in us trying it out and learning, okay, which of these foods on this big list is a trigger and which one actually helps me, right? And letting your body tell you in ways that are not happening on an infinite scroll from someone you never met on the internet, letting your body speak to you the way your body speaks, that is a way you can work with the element of earth, and it is a way that you can heal, and it is a way that you can learn about yourself. And we can do this about our health, and we can also do this about habits. What really happens when I try to get up an hour earlier every day because someone on the internet told me to do that? It doesn't work for me because my sleep cycles are a little different than most people, and also I have a night job. Right? Listening to ourselves. Our first relationship is with ourselves. And that's a very earthy relationship. All right, that brings us to the end of our podcast. Let me know if you try any of these different ideas. I know some of them are a little more witchy. Some of them are a little more like psychological. Some of them are a little more relational. I believe magic to be very relational. If you are a bonus subscriber on Patreon, which is $5 and up, you'll be getting an episode probably in the next few days. Certainly by the end of the week. I'm taking my time recording this month's podcast because it's a busy month. About creating growth in your life through working with a plant ally. And you can do this by working with a plant ally if you have a green thumb and like to garden or like to have houseplants, or if you don't have to do that, right? Like you don't have to like take a plant into your care if you're like, I kill every plant I meet. You don't have to. You can find a plant ally that is out in the wild that you don't have to take that kind of personal responsibility for. Because again, I know that can be a source of either growth or stress. But creating growth in your life through the use of a plant ally is going to be the topic of the bonus episode. I'm excited about that. And that's what you need to know. Thank you for hanging out for my TED Talk about the element of earth. Next episode, we'll be talking about the element of air. And here's where you can find me. I use Sassafras Tarot as the name that I do my podcasting and all my spiritual stuff under. You can find me at patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot if you would like to support this podcast financially and unlock exclusive benefits. You can also find me on all the social media as at Sassafras Tarot, SASSAFRASTAROT. You can email me at sassafrastarot@gmail.com. And you can follow me all the places and send me a message. And I would love for you to send me a message about tarot or magic or witchcraft or any of this stuff that I talk about, because I would just love to have a conversation about it. These are topics I'm passionate about. So reach out anytime. If you would like to order a reading, you can do so at my Linktree, which shows you what I'm doing at the moment and what I'm offering. Right now, I do the big thing that I'm focused on right now for people is I do offer these monthly tarot reports where I give you a heads up on week by week what's going to happen in your month, as well as what energy you should bring for your highest good and success, and what energy you should steer clear of for your highest good and success. And I deliver those via video, so you can listen to them again and again throughout the month. If you're interested in that or other readings that I offer, visit my Linktree. Linktree, linktr.ee/Sassafras Tarot. You can also always check out my Etsy if you want. Just search me on Etsy. Anyway, it's been wonderful talking with you today. I will talk with you again soon. Make sure to listen to the squishy animal body that is you. Make sure to tune in for those relationships that are about more than just language. And I'll see you soon.